and I couldn't live with testifying against my brother and giving him the death penalty. That I just couldn't do it. So I didn't take the deal. Yeah.
So people who are tuning in, this is Robert Spencer. Just got out of prison about 40 hours ago after serving 40 years. 40 years. Since 1981, he's been in prison. And the guy with him is Doug DeLosa. Doug is a great friend of mine. Doug was in prison with Robert for a crime he didn't commit. Doug did 14 years of a life sentence. And Doug brought your case to my attention. In fact, not only did he bring your case to my attention, but he wouldn't stop talking about it.
Hey, I got to say this. He's a friend. He's a true friend, man.
He was relentless. And he just said all the best things about you. And, he cares so deeply about you and just was, I can't say enough good things about Doug. And for people who want to follow Doug, it's Doug DeLosa, DougDilosa. He's up there in the corner of the screen because we're on his Instagram Live right now as well. And so Doug, Doug said amazing things about you, and I'm just so happy that we were able to finally, and it took too long, but finally we were able to, bring you home. And can you talk about that, Robert? Like, what was that like? How did you find out that the governor granted you clemency?
Man, look, you get me fixing to get me crying again. When we were sitting at the table at lunch, and we had found out that a double murderer had got his signed by the governor, and we was talking about if anybody else had got theirs signed, and we just didn't know. So a friend of ours sitting at the table knows some people here in Baton Rouge. And he said, well, I'm going to go call and get a list of who, got their stuff signed.
Explain what you mean by that. Your gold seal from the government.
Yeah, the gold seal, the time cut, the commutation of sentence. So what happened was he had left out, and me and another guy, this friend, we were just sitting there kind of like, shooting the bull. And we got up to leave out, and Larry came in and told me, he said, congratulations. I said, for what? He said, man, the governor signed your stuff. And I just broke out crying, man. I couldn't, I just couldn't deal with it, man. It was overwhelming, And I'm just so thankful for you and Doug and the governor for signing my stuff. It's just, I'm just emotional, man, and I thank y'all.
Did Doug tell you we went to visit the governor?
Yes, he did, and I'm very grateful, I mean, I don't have words, man. I really don't. It's really touchy,
Well, listen, Doug gets all the credit as far as I'm concerned. He, he was, like I said, like a pit bull, and I think the governor was really impressed with him. And when we went to see him, I don't think the governor's ever had a meeting like that with a guy who served 14 years of crime he didn't commit. And of course, he carried himself very well. And then, when I spoke to the governor recently, he was very concerned about your case. He saw it for what it is, which is a grave injustice, and also, was aware that we made him aware that, you had been sort of a standout person throughout the time you were there. Accomplished so many great things, and obviously no threat to society. You probably never were, and I think he moved pretty. It took a long time, but once it started, he really gained momentum. He moved.
Yes, sir, it did.
And shout out to Leslie Chambers too. Leslie is the deputy chief counsel in the governor's office, and I think she'd probably be embarrassed if she hears me talking about her, but she wanted to. Make sure that justice was finally done. Too late. Delayed but not denied, as they say.
Yes,
right? So,
hey, I'm grateful. I ain't lying. I mean, I'm grateful to Doug. I'm grateful to you. I'm grateful to the governor. I'm just, words can't explain it. It's a feeling that I never thought would come.
And Leslie too. And
Leslie too.
I'm not going to keep you all night, but people who are tuning in now, this is Robert Spencer, served 40 years in Angola, got out about 40 hours ago, and is now home. Doug DeLosa, his friend from prison, who was
Oh, if you
convicted.
once you got this, you would have died.
Tell us, Robert, if you don't mind, was there like a best moment, and if there was such a thing when you were in prison, or was there a worst? Was there a time when you really almost lost hope?
The worst time I ever seen, and it really scared me, was when they was going to build a deathbed in the tag plant, and everybody just quit working. They bucked, is what we called it. And to see 3 or 4 thousand prisoners, just lay down and said that they wasn't going to do it, and they started rushing them into the dorms. And the next thing you know, you had like free people coming in the back gate, 5 wide and 50 deep, with sticks and helmets on and shields and all that. And then you see 2 ambulances come in behind that with people on the back of them with fully automatic weapons. That's a scary feeling.
Yeah. Just explain. I was there at that time, and honest to God, Jason, that had to be one of my scariest moments, because you had thousands of inmates refuse to cooperate to build the deathbed they wanted us to build the table to lay another inmate on to execute him. And that time, all 5,000 inmates in the prison came together and just said, fuck y'all, we are not doing it. And for a while, their response, they brought the goon squads in, and we thought we were all going to be slaughtered. And then it came to a peaceful resolution, and eventually the administration backed down and gave in to us and said, no, that's wrong. Y'all shouldn't be building the table to execute another inmate.
So they were trying to have the inmates build the table to execute another inmate, and that led to the stand up that you're talking about. And Doug, I know you talked about on my podcast when you were almost beaten to death by guards when you were there. So this was no empty threat.
Oh no, that's why I said that might not have been my scariest time. The time I was beaten and put in a utility closet for a weekend and left to die, and I laid in that dark closet, from a Friday afternoon to a Monday morning. I thought I was going to die in there, and when they opened up that closet on a Monday morning and said, oh shit, he's still alive, what are we going to do? And someone said, I guess we'll bring him to the hospital. And that was probably my scariest moment.
No, and just for people who aren't familiar or haven't heard Doug's episode of the podcast, Wrongful Conviction, Doug was framed by cops in Louisiana for the murder of his own wife, and they told him they were framing him while that's how it is. So, but we're really here to celebrate Robert's freedom today.
Yeah, let's get back to Robert. But tell him, again, I think Robert, shine it on Robert.
Okay.
I'm just going to say this because Robert's sort of choked up and having trouble expressing himself. Had we not been successful, and I give a lot of credit to you, Jason, for your unwavering, crusade to get the governor to see Rob's case for what it was. Because Rob, if he wouldn't have got this signature, we know at his age and with the upcoming, we're almost guaranteed to have a Republican in for the next 4 to 8 years after this term for the Democratic Governor Edwards, he was going to die in prison. And eventually men serving life have to resign themselves to the fact it's just a question of time before I die, and will anybody claim my body to give me a decent burial? And thank God for Rob. This man didn't deserve to spend 40 years, and now he doesn't have to worry about dying in prison, because in Louisiana, a life sentence is a death penalty by longevity.
Right.
That's true.
And meanwhile, Rob, you come out and just in time for 2 hurricanes to hit. How about that?
Yeah, I'm sorry to see the people suffering, but I'm glad to be going through it. I mean, I consider it a blessing. It's something new to me.
I want to ask you another question, but
yes,
before that, Rodney Reed, I see a lot of people talking about him on the comments. I want to shout out to everybody that's supporting Rodney Reed, an innocent man on death row in Texas. We are going to bring him home. I don't care how long it takes. It's going to take too long, but we're going to bring him home. Also, Matthew Russian. There's so many innocent people in there. God knows how many. I mean, you were in prison for 40 years. You saw tens of thousands of people in there. What percentage of them do you think are innocent? I mean, it's got to be a crazy number.
You know, what surprised me was some of the stories I heard after, they actually, when you befriend somebody in there, they're a friend, and you'll sit down and they'll tell you, a little bit about themselves, and they'll go into their crime a little bit. And, it's two sides to a story always. You always have the DA side, and then you have the person's side that is in there with you. And they don't never mix. They don't never match. And, you got to put a little truth to it here and there. But there is a lot of people in there that's innocent. You just have to wade through them and see who they are,
Yeah, and listen, we're gonna try to help all of them. Pablo Ibar, another person checking in, another innocent guy on death row in Florida, and even in Angola, Justin Grenier. We got to bring him home. There's other cases we're working on in Louisiana right now. I'm thinking about Terrence Long, and others that we are engaged with, and we're not going to stop. It's a scourge, and it just happens too damn often. It happens all the time, and you and Doug are living proof of it.
If I can tell my story to anybody, Mr. Jason, I'm gonna do it.
And Billy Allen in the federal system, we're trying to prevent him from being executed. I mean, this is a guy who was convicted of a murder that took place during a robbery that, he had a solid, airtight alibi. And it just gets, it just drives me insane. There's so many cases. I mean, I got my whole dining room table filled with letters, some from people in Angola who need help. And it's going to take everybody getting involved. Let me ask you this question. So 40 years of prison food, how good does food taste?
Oh, man. Look, I've been to a couple of restaurants already, and it seems like I wake up full in the mornings and everything. Food is delicious. I mean, it really is. It's really delicious. The food is kind of terrible in prison. Believe that.
And by the way, we're bringing home Ronnie Long in North Carolina. He's coming home this week after 44 years.